The 1990s was a wild time for toy merchandising. Every big summer film which came out had a raft of merchandise to go along with it, and this is all largely down to Star Wars. You see, Kenner made so much money from their Star Wars toys that since 1977, every toy company has wanted to have their version of Star Wars. Even if a film is not suitable for children, you could still get Terminator action figures or a RoboCop lunchbox or Jurassic Park pajamas. It's summer 1996. Roland Emmerich's Independence Day hits cinemas and is almost immediately an international phenomenon. And like all big summer films of the 1990s, the amount of promotional material was mental. Unlike any other toy line of the time though, the Independence Day toy line came packaged with 3.5-inch floppy disks. Hi, my name is Matty, and today I am stoked to be talking to you about the Independence Day PC games that you've probably never heard of. After the success they had with Star Wars, Kenner basically monopolised all film toys. Every good film that came out, Kenner bought the license. The little table scraps that they didn't want were eagerly snapped up and turned into largely poor toy lines by their competitors. What's interesting is in 1995, Kenner had a little bit of a change of direction. Star Wars had been flagging, but they relaunched it in 1995 with Power of the Force. They also did Beast Wars for their parent company Hasbro. Their focus for film license tie-ins was taken up largely by extending their own existing toy lines for Jurassic Park and Batman. Basically what I'm saying is 1996 was a very busy year for Kenner. This meant that they passed on a lot of film licenses. The Independence Day toy line, the hottest film of 1996, was actually picked up by Trendmasters. Trendmasters at this point were probably most famous for their Godzilla toys. Now this is before the Roland Emmerich film, they actually also did the toys for that, so Godzilla was considered something of a niche property. Independence Day was going to put Trendmasters on the map. Not content with just putting out some action figures, Trendmasters went out to make a name for themselves. Now, with the rise of the home computer throughout the 1990s, Trendmasters had previously dabbled with the idea of putting a little game on a floppy disk and packaging it with their toys, but Independence Day was going to have 11 separate mission disks, each with its own unique game, each telling a separate part of the Independence Day story. I remember when Independence Day came out, I remember seeing these alien figures in Toys R Us, and I remember thinking they were sick, but I don't actually remember anyone owning them. And I don't remember anyone ever talking about these floppy disks. Fast forward to now. If you follow me on Twitter, then you might know that I'm a big toy fan. I go to a lot of toy fairs with my mates, I visit a lot of these vintage toy stores up and down the country. A couple of years ago, trawling around these toy fairs, you would see piles of Independence Day action figures. They were cheap as chips, nobody wanted them, they all just wanted shot of them. My mate Dobbs is actually the one that pointed out that these toys come with floppy disks. From that, I then had this idea of making this video, and it just feels like as soon as I decided to make it, then the seam just dried up. You can find them loose on eBay and places like that, but you can never find them complete. Specifically, you can never find them with the floppy disk. I guess the kids would buy the toys, they'd keep the lads, keep the guns, but they just wouldn't keep the floppy disk, and I completely understand that. In order to find all 11 mission disks, I've had to go out and buy every single one of these toys, mint on sealed card or mint in packaging, just to make a YouTube video. What do you say we open this 30-year-old packaging up and let these guys all breathe? Hashtag, let them breathe. First things first, the alien design is so sick. The creature was designed by Patrick Tatopoulos, and he says he was not inspired by Giga's Xenomorph, but I don't know, I can see some shades in here. It's very cool, it's scary and it's slimy and it's just so out there, man. The toy line expands from what you saw in the film by adding in a few different alien types. So we've got the leader class, the warrior, the scientist, and the pilot is the one that we saw in the film. There's even a couple of even rarer US exclusive figures like the Zero Gravity and the Ultimate Commander alien. And for me, the aliens really are the standout for this line. They really capture Tatopoulos' creature design, and truthfully, they've aged really well from a display standpoint. If these were on a shelf, they look sick. I like how the head's clamshell open with the little alien inside, just like in the film. And also, yeah, just a quick shout out to how absolutely horrible the noise is on the big Supreme Commander. You've also got figures of the human characters in the film. You've got Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith and Bill Pullman. And in true 90s fashion, each figure comes bundled with a bunch of classic toyline nonsense that has nothing to do with the film. The president has an RPG. Jeff Goldblum has a grappling hook. Amazing, of course they do. Yeah, classic 90s toy stuff. Now, regarding the toys' quality, these are not really up to the same standard as the sort of thing you would have been getting from Playmates or Mattel or Toy Biz of the time. The sculpts themselves are really good, but the engineering just lets these down a bit. The plastic on the alien figures is really rigid, I would say potentially brittle. You do have these really great bendy, posable tentacles, and I love bendable toys, but the rest of the limbs don't have any articulation whatsoever. You've only got one point on the arms, and there's no leg articulation whatsoever. You've got these two rigid tentacles on the back, which you're supposed to use to help stand the figures up, but they just get in the way, and I can't see why these couldn't also have been bendable. They look very, very cool, but you don't have very many options for posability, and that is important to me. The human figures are in this kind of wacky 5-inch scale, so they're just incompatible with all of your other toys, and I suppose the worst sin of all is the vehicles are in a completely different scale again. I mean, obviously I understand why. But it would have been sick to have a full-scale fighter jet or an alien spaceship so that you could actually put these lads in it and fly them about the place. All told though, this isn't a bad toy line at all. There's a few minor quality issues which stops this toy line from being one of the true all-time greats, but really this toy line represents a company coming out of the doldrums. They're pulling out all the stops and they're thrusting themselves out onto that main stage with all these other major players. For me, this is an exciting toy line for that reason, and it certainly isn't a boring toy line either. We've got translucent plastics, we've got metallic finishes, we've got glitter. Nothing was phoned in here.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that you've all been waiting for.
In all likelihood, the reason you clicked on this video is to go through these discs. So in total, there were 11 unique discs which were packaged across the entire toy line. Each disc has a small minigame on it, sort of related to the toy and sort of depicting a different bit of the film's story. The hardware requirements for these floppy disks are pretty modest, even for 1996. You'll need Windows 3.1, a 386, 4 meg of RAM, 1.5 megabytes of hard drive space, a sound card, and a graphics card supporting 640 by 480 at 256 colours. Side note, in the film, Jeff actually uses a MacBook to defeat the aliens, but the floppy disks released with the toys are all IBM compatible. There is a card that says if you send off a stamped addressed envelope, Trendmasters would then send you Mac compatible disks in return. I have never seen these. I don't know if they exist, I don't know if they were ever made, I don't know if there's a box sitting in someone's loft somewhere. I mean, that would be cool, right? There is almost nothing online about these mission discs, so I genuinely did not know what to expect going into it. Much like the video I made about the Spawn CD-ROM, I feel like this video is going to end up being the internet's premier source for information about this, at least in the short term. No pressure then. Disc 1 came bundled with the Supreme Commander, the US exclusive Ultimate Commander, and the Zero Gravity figure. It's kind of a prequel for the film because you're playing the alien commander and you're searching the galaxy for a suitable planet to then go and invade. Oh, I should say now that none of these games come with any instructions, so a large majority of the playtime is just figuring out what the hell it is you're supposed to do and how it is you're supposed to do it. The key to the puzzle, it turns out, is figuring out how the nav computer works. You've got 2 tentacles on your back and you've got 3 places to stick them in. That's 9 combinations, so that's 9 potential places to find the planet Earth. Most of the coordinates result in just nothing but empty space, but at worst you can also find a supernova and then be blown up, which is wonderful. Once you do find Earth, it's then a case of sending spaceships with this button here. Sometimes Earth mounts a resistance and blows you up in return, and honestly, I couldn't see if there was any logic to this. Sending in the ships faster or sending them in slower didn't seem to have any real effect on the end result. But the coordinates for Earth never change, so it doesn't take long for you just to have another go and send your ships in and hope for the best. Wonderful. Disc 2 came bundled with the Science Officer figure, and I think the idea is supposed to be that the alien scientists are abducting animals to experiment on, with the aim of using their DNA to upgrade their exosuit bodies? Maybe they're trying to adapt to Earth's atmosphere or something? I think I'm doing more legwork here than they ever did. Anyway, you've got this thing over here on the right, and that lets you load in one of 3 Earth species. And then you've got this little puzzle thing here, which opens up this grate, which is full of eggs or embryos or something. Anyway, yeah, you then use the alien spoon to pick up the empty eggs, and then you can extract DNA from the animals, and you have to get one of each, or you completely fail the game and you have to start again. Once you have all 3 though, you can then combine that DNA together, and then apparently this then makes the alien exosuit suitable for colonizing Earth. Fair? Disc 3 came with the glittery Shock Trooper figure, and this game is called Warrior Alien, and it asks us to assemble a sick new alien gun. At first, all you can do is open up this thing here. Fine. Oh, here we go. A game of Simon. It's only a matter of time with these old games, isn't it? You're always going to get a game of Simon. Once you've done that, you then open up this locker full of alien items, which you then need to figure out how to combine them into weapon parts. This time, there's 6 items, and there's 2 places to put them, which makes 15 combinations? Worse yet though, if you get it wrong, your commanding officer zaps you and takes a life. If you lose all your lives, then the whole game is finished because you're then terminated from the entire alien race? Wow. Okay, harsh. Starting again, Simon is actually different each time, so that's actually pretty cool. The weapon combinations though are exactly the same, so once you know which one's possible, you can get through this a little quicker. Once you get the first one, of course, the possible combinations drop significantly, so the weapon comes together that much easier, and your reward is apparently your continued existence, so that's nice. Mission 4 is another sort of navigation game similar to the first one, but this one actually has instructions. Sort of. We're still the aliens, but now we're infiltrating Earth's satellite network. Are we hacking the planet? Yeah, we're hacking the planet. Once you've figured out how to bring up the hologram, you sort of click on the globe, and then the game gives you this sort of puzzle. You see, each of these alien characters responds to a number. The game gives you a 3-digit sequence which you just have to match. The amount of time you get to solve the puzzle though gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and honestly, I couldn't tell you if you match top to bottom or bottom to top. I just kept plugging away at it until I just got the windscreen, so cool. Now we're talking. Disc 5 came with the Will Smith figure, and I was absolutely certain this would be me flying a plane. Unfortunately it's not. It's a puzzle to rewire the spaceship. The little post-it notes here give you clues as to what you're supposed to do. First of all, you just connect the wires in the right order, or you fry the whole damn thing and aliens apparently then kill everyone. But once you've got that covered, it's then the same puzzle as the navigation puzzle. You just get the symbols in the right order and crack the code. Apparently hacking an alien spaceship is easy. This was the shortest one to figure out and to complete, but I think this is the most fun one so far, so I feel like we're on a pretty good trajectory. Disc 6 came with my favourite figure in the entire toy line, Jeff Goldblum the action figure. My favourite thing about the figure is he actually has his little hacking computer. It's just adorable. The game is called David's Computer, which is actually a bit insulting as the other 2 human characters, their games are actually named after them, but his one is just named after his laptop. Nah, actually now we're into it. This is actually adorable. That's the actual MacBook from the film, and that even looks a little bit like macOS, so amazing. This game has 4 parts, so it's kind of like 4 mini-games all in one. In this game, David has got to align the satellite, adjust the carrier wave signal, and then upload the virus, and then help Steve take off. What I like about this game is at any point you can ring up your mates and they'll just give you some help over the phone, which brilliant. Adjusting the carrier wave took absolutely ages, but the other puzzles are all pretty straightforward. In a similar fashion to the previous one, each disc is getting more fun from the last, so who knows where this is going to end. This thing doesn't have a ceiling. President Whitmore's disc was by far the easiest one of them all. I captured the entire puzzle from front to back in my first attempt, and the whole thing took me less than 3 minutes. I'm pretty sure that there is a scene in every film of this type. You know, the one where the president's been given the nuclear launch codes and he's got to put a little key in a briefcase to activate the nukes? Well, yeah, this game is that scene. Unfortunately, you don't get to yell,
"Get off my plane."
This is a very simple click on the right things in the right order kind of game. I do like how the actual mission disc actually makes an appearance in its own game. That is so meta. It's pretty cool though how this one actually lets me make explosions. Quality. Okay, here we go. If the Will Smith game wasn't a shooting game, the Alien Attacker. Come on, here we go. This has got to be it. I mean, this is not at all what I was expecting. This is screenshots and technical specs of the Alien Fighter. There is no game here to speak of whatsoever. This is like a small interactive encyclopedia type thing. That 3D hologram is pretty sick, so fair enough. I would say that this game is most at odds with the toy that it came packaged with. The spaceship toy itself is actually pretty sick. It's got lights and sounds and launching missiles. And don't get me wrong, a 1990s interactive encyclopedia, I mean, that really is my jam. And I'm actually kind of amazed that they scaled this down to fit on a 1 meg floppy. I just really want one of these games to let me fly a fucking spaceship. Dare I hope that the F-18 toy gives me that chance. Oh, it's literally the Alien Attack game, but everything's just replaced with jets. Cool. I mean, fair enough, you know, Trendmasters probably had a hell of a task in making 11 unique PC games. I'm happy to give them a pass. If they just reskin one, that's absolutely fine. You might call it cheap, but do you know what? What are the chances that some idiot would collect all 11 discs and then find out that 2 of them are basically the same? Most kids would probably only get 1 or 2. I just really want to fly a spaceship, that's all. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, yes! I genuinely didn't think I was going to get to fly a spaceship. After 10 discs, I had given up. But here we are. The Alien Bomber on disc 10 lets you fly a little spaceship around in a simulation. Love it. The conceit is that you are an alien who's training for the big invasion. You fly your little spaceship around with the mouse and you shoot down jets and you bomb a little simulated city. The planes appear completely at random. They're going so quick you can barely react, and in the later levels they are spawning in at such a rate you'll get smashed by them in absolutely no time. I'm pretty sure this is one of those games that just keeps on going, indefinitely getting harder and harder. I don't think there's actually a win state. All I'm going to say though is I am absolutely gassed that I actually got a game where I could fly a spaceship and kill those measly humans. The interesting thing about Disc 10 is that it actually came bundled with 3 different toys, much like Disc 1. It came with the Defend New York playset, which is what I have, the Weapons Expert figure, and the LA Invasion playset, which is super expensive to find complete. The final disc came with the Area 51 Mighty Max playset. It's actually a really cool little playset. You've got these little aliens, little test chambers for doing all those cruel experiments on them, little spaceships, little cranes. Yeah, it's all pretty cool. The engineering was a little bit behind the curve, as you can see here. You can't actually close them with all the pieces inside, so Anyway, the game's actually really cute. It's kind of like a gamified version of the toy. Oh my god, is that a fax? Oh my god. I love this. I love it. So anyway, you've got this little lad, and then you've got to get him to do all the little tasks in order to get the spaceship ready for launch. I guess there's probably a logical order in which you're supposed to do this, but you're actually watching me play this for the first time, and I did the entire thing in 1 minute 15 seconds. It is cute though, getting this little lad chipping around the place, you know, loading up the ordnance and fueling the ship and all that stuff, and the way he says, it's just adorable. I would say this is a very short end to the run of Mission Disks, but the president was so happy with my performance that he put 3 exclamation marks on the end of his fax. I mean, we did prevent the extermination of the human race, so he is allowed to be excited. For free pack-in games that came with action figures from 1996, these floppy disks were never intended to be these big, world-ending pieces of digital entertainment. But to my mind, they are just as worthy of remembering and documenting as anything else from this era. If anything, the fact that they've fallen into obscurity means that they are even more worthy of documenting. Personally, I think this is a sick coming together of lots of different bits of late 90s popular culture, and I've had so much fun making this video. Trendmasters did actually go on to make another line of action figures which included Mission Disks. It was a lot smaller than Independence Day, but the good news is I got those too, so good on me. If you yourself are interested in playing these games, I have actually ripped my personal collection of floppy disks and I've added them up to archive.org. There is a link in the description. I suppose the only thing left to say is, does anybody want to buy a complete set of Independence Day figures?